For the in-body scan, this top portion is just kind of informational. It's just interesting. There's not like good or bad necessarily here. So total body water, that's how many pounds of water in your system. So when you guys wake up in the morning, make sure you guys are drinking water first thing. I would do a pinch of sea salt in your water as well, or one of the electrolyte packets, just to replenish your minerals. And that's important as you guys move through this challenge, especially as you start shedding weight and toxins. Make sure you guys are drinking plenty of water, right? Because you're going to be peeing out a lot of that stuff. When you drink coffee in the morning, or if you're drinking caffeine, wait 90 minutes, right? There's a chemical in your brain that takes 90 minutes to dissipate in the mornings. It's the chemical that's responsible for making you feel tired. So if you drink your coffee before 90 minutes, it blocks those receptors that clear that out. And then when the coffee or caffeine wears off, there's still that molecule circulating in your brain, and that's what makes you feel tired in the evenings or in the afternoons. And that's why you like drink more coffee. So 90 minutes for caffeine. The dry lean mass, that's how much material you have for creating muscle and strengthening your bones. And then body fat mass, that's how many pounds of body fat you have on your body. And then your overall weight's at the bottom. When you guys come down to muscle fat analysis, there's a down arrow, a dash, and above arrow. So that's for below average, average, and above average for people your age, gender, and height. You'll see your weight here. So for like my weight, I'd be above average here. Not necessarily a bad thing. Skeletal muscle mass, we want that number to be as high as possible, right? And then you have body fat mass at the bottom, right? So ideally what you see here is a D shape to the curve, right? If you see like an I shape, or if you see a C shape, the goal is to ultimately bring your weight and body fat mass down and to bring your skeletal muscle mass up as high as possible. You want to, especially all you guys are fairly young, the goal when you're in your youth is to maintain as much skeletal muscle mass as possible. That's going to make you way more resilient, way more insulin sensitive. And as you get older, something called sarcopenia hits, where you start to lose muscle mass over time, especially if you're non-training, right? After the age of 60, I forget what the percentage is that you lose each year, but it's not good. So, and I'm seeing this with a lot of like my parents and my parents' friends. If you don't build those habits early in life, later in life it becomes very difficult, right? Imagine you're in a body that is like kind of falling apart and losing a lot of muscle mass. If you don't have a good habit of exercise built in, it's very hard to put yourself in that situation once you're already uncomfortable. So you guys all work out here, nice job, you're already doing it. Body fat or body mass index, I consider this to be a fairly worthless number. It's just your weight over your height. So if you look at mine says that I'm pre-obese, all right, at 11% body fat. So we want to ignore that number. But percentage body fat, that's going to be a little bit more important. Now this is subcutaneous body fat. This is the body fat stored under your skin. There's also something called visceral fat. Unfortunately, this machine doesn't measure that, but that's the dangerous fat. That's the fat that surrounds your organs. So if you ever hear doctors talk about fatty liver disease, that's what they're talking about. And that can be problematic. So it's not the best indicator of percentage body fat, but it is an indicator. So the goal for guys is to be somewhere between 10 and 20% body fat. The goal for girls, since you are different animals, is between 18 and 28% body fat. Don't get too manic about that. It's just an indicator. Think about it in terms of what are your habits promoting, right? Are we promoting muscle growth? Are we promoting fat loss? Are we promoting fat storage, right? And muscle loss. We want to make sure that we're on the other side of that spectrum. And all these habits that we're going to go over today are ways of hopefully getting you into the point where you're able to build muscle. When you guys come down here to segmental lean analysis, we want all these numbers to be above 100%. Right? That means you have enough muscle mass on that limb to support your body weight. With your arms, if there's more than a 6% difference in your arms, that's considered an imbalance. So if you guys see that, let's say your left arm's weaker, you may want to add in some left arm work. Left arm bicep curls, tricep extensions, something to strengthen that muscle. And then same thing for your legs. If there's more than a 3% difference in your legs, which I have, 4%. My right leg is a little bit stronger than my left. You want to add in, so I need to add in some left leg work. Bulgarian split squats, single leg deadlifts, because if you're imbalanced in your legs, that can cause injuries. You're putting more strain on one side than the other. Oh, the horror. So, if you guys need help with programming for something like that, you can let I or Coach Casey know, and we'll come up with an awesome strategy for you to torture yourself with. When you guys come down here to the bottom portion, this is going to give you a nice readout to see where you've been and where you're going. So hopefully what we see is, depending on what your goals are, hopefully you see skeletal muscle mass kind of slowly increasing and maintaining a high percentage. Hopefully your body fat percentage is somewhere within that healthy range, all right? There is such a thing as too low a body fat, right? For guys, if you get under 10% body fat, a lot of times you have hormonal issues, your libido drops. Same thing with girls, you stop having your period and things like that. So, you know, our culture tells us you need to be a real skinny, right? But it's not necessarily always the best thing. Even for me right now, I've put on a decent amount of weight over the last couple years, and I feel better now than I have. So much better than I feel when I get below 10%. When you guys come up here to body fat mass and lean body mass control, body fat mass, it's going to give you a number there, whether you need to gain weight if you're under your recommended body fat percentage, or whether you need to lose weight. But it's always going to be, it's going to take you to the middle. So for guys, it's going to take you to 15%. So if you want to get to 15% body fat, whatever number that says there, that is what you need to lose body fat wise to get to 15%. For girls, it's 18%. So you're really just shooting to be within that healthy range. But just understand that whatever it's telling you to lose, that's to get you right in the middle of that range. Does that make sense? So for guys, 15%, for girls, 23%. All right. And then lean body mass, this is how much your body weighed if you had 0% body fat. All right. That is your target for how much protein you should be hitting in grams per day. That's the low end, right? So on your macro sheet, you're going to see a number that's slightly different than that. Usually it's 20 or 30 grams more, or 20% more. So when we do if one of your target goals is protein macro, hitting your protein macro every day, you can use that number as the satisfying number. Does that make sense? Yeah? Kayla? Makes sense? Cool. So make sure you guys write that down on your macro sheet under your protein macro. All right? And then this is also a cool number, this basal metabolic rate. This is how many calories you burn if you were laying in bed staring at the ceiling all day. So obviously you're up and exercising, hopefully. Hopefully you're not laying in bed staring at the ceiling all day. If you're depressed, you can talk to me. You've got some good therapists on hand. So when you guys see your numbers, even if your goal is to lose weight, your number is still going to be above that number, right? And that's kind of like the balance when you guys are trying to lose weight, is if you're chronically under this number, you'll slow your metabolism down, right? And that's what we see with a lot of people who come into the gym that are pretty overweight. Typically they're just eating way too much food, or they're not eating enough food. So you're trying to find this sweet spot where your body's getting what it needs, but it's also able to release fat. So acute drops in calories are okay, right? So let's say we're going to do a fast in the 3rd or 4th week here. We'll do a 1 to 3 day water fast. That would be considered an acute dropping of calories. It's that chronic number, that's where you want to pay attention to. So like I said, you're trying to find that kind of equilibrium and balance where you can maintain muscle and lose fat. The body, that's what I was going to say. The body is really smart. So if your body perceives that there's not enough calories in the environment, well, muscle is very costly. It takes a lot of calories to maintain muscle, so your body will shed muscle and put on body fat because it's trying to keep you alive, right? That's why you have to kind of find that sweet spot. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. Let's look at your protein or your macro sheets here. So there should be 3 options for you guys. Weight loss is a priority. Maintain weight, improve strength and performance, and then weight gain, muscle gain. You'll see that protein number is above that number that we had on the sheet for lean body mass. So like I said, make sure you put your little lean body mass number right there next to it. And you can consider these like 3 knobs on a radio. The protein knob you do not want to mess with, right? That knob should stay consistent somewhere between those 2 numbers. It doesn't do you any good to eat above this number, right? Any excess protein that your body takes in, it converts to carbohydrates, and it's also a little bit harder on your kidneys. Hopefully you have 2. Your carbs and your fat, that's going to be a little bit different for each person, right? This is dependent on your genetics. So some people are very carb tolerant, some people are very fat tolerant. I tend to be a little bit more fat tolerant, so I typically eat a little bit more on the fat, and I tend to be a little bit less carbohydrate tolerant. So if I eat too many carbohydrates, my joints tend to feel a little bit achy. So I try and maintain somewhere around that carb number, but not above that carb number. So you guys can kind of play around with this. The difference is that you need to consider is that 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, 1 gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, right? So it's double plus some of what carbohydrates are. So if you lower your carb number by 20 grams of carbohydrates, do not up your fat by 20 grams of fat because your calories are going to be way higher. Does that make sense? Try and stick to these numbers for a week or two, see how you feel. You're welcome to come in and like step on the scale and kind of get a feel for it, and then adjust accordingly. Does that make sense for everybody? The reason this carb number is a little bit higher is because a lot of the workouts that we do in here are sugar burning, right? High intensity fast exercise is sugar burning. Low intensity like long walks, zone 2 training, which is 180 minus your age. That's like the heart rate you want to maintain while you're doing zone 2 training. That's a little bit more fat burning. All right. If one of your goals is to lose fat, long walks can be super helpful. Or zone 2 training. Zone 2 training, once again, 180 minus your age. If you have a heart rate monitor or like an iWatch or something, you want to do like 45 to 90 minutes of that. And that's really good for cardiovascular health as well. Any questions on that? Cool. Excellent. All right, guys, I always have like a little quote that I start these challenges with. So this is going to be our quote for this one. Health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, faithfulness the best relationship. So as you guys get into this, hopefully, these challenges aren't just about what you're doing habit-wise, but also like your mindset as you move through things. So one of the things we're going to do this time is no social media. Hopefully that helps with your mindset a little bit. And then a lot of the other things that we do, like breath work, meditation, long walks, hopefully these things kind of help keep your peace, if that makes sense. We don't live in a vacuum. We live in a community of people. A lot of this challenge is about doing some like inner work because we contribute to the whole. So hopefully you guys are given the time and space and the framework to kind of work on yourselves over the next 30 days and to just kind of have fun with it. The habits are not the end goal. You can exercise 5 times a day and still be a shitty person. So hopefully you guys are incorporating practices that make you a better person to your friends, to your family, to the community, to people around you, and that's kind of the ultimate goal for this thing. The challenge is happening in September, October, so as we're approaching the fall, these are some of the things I wanted to kind of keep in mind. We hit the fall equinox where it's equal parts light and day, so it's a really good time for balancing out action with introspection, all right? And a lot of these challenges have to do with introspection, right? Going within, journaling. It's also a good time to, just like the fall, right? All the trees shed their leaves, right? So now's a good time for you guys to kind of look in at your habits, how you're living your life, and to allow for things that are no longer serving you to kind of drop off, all right? So couple of the exercises we're going to do is based on that, right? What can we examine in our lives that will help, that we can get rid of, right? Neural pathways, the best way to explain this is you can think about your brain, and like, let's say like you're walking in a forest. You have these trails that kind of move through, and your habits are you like walking down those trails. So let's say you've been doing something for 20 years. Let's say you've been drinking 6 beers a night for the last 20 years. Well, those trails are going to be super deep and super wide, right? Because that's the pattern that you're kind of used to. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to create new patterns, and like I said, practicing discernment, what is working for me and what is no longer working for me. And then we want to try and replace those habits or carve new paths, right? The problem is that typically these paths are so well groomed that we tend to fall back into them. So you will find that there's a lot of resistance, right? No social media is going to be one of the things. You're going to find that there's some resistance to that, and that's one of the things that we're going to kind of concentrate on is how often you like go to grab for your phone, right? And so you'll feel yourself wanting to go down that trail, if that makes sense. So don't try and beat yourself up around this. We have this like hatred and then this like, feeling bad about it. It's okay. It's just part of the culture. It's part of what we've groomed ourselves to do. And then just keep in mind, right, if insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and just expecting different results, right, we're trying to move away from insanity. All right.
So no social media means like no I play fantasy. I gotta be on the fantasy app.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's like a camaraderie thing, most people aren't getting on Instagram and just talking to their friends, right?
No,
Most
no.
people are getting on Instagram and just like scroll. And there's just a lot going on in the world and can be a little bit overwhelming, right? So we're trying to like calm that down. The Wheel of Life exercise. Did you guys all get that email?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I wanted to go through this real quick. Does everybody have a sheet of paper? Okay. Cool. Who needs a sheet? And a whiteboard, maybe. Oh, you got a sheet. Yeah.
I have a sheet, but I'll take that one if you want me to.
You're good? You're good? Cool. Oh, you got a sheet. Yeah. So you guys can start by drawing a big circle on your sheet.
Oh.
Just, yeah, I guess you don't need to get a table. So you guys can draw a big circle. Steal yours for a second here. And then you guys are going to write down, you're going to make 10 pieces of the pie here. Yeah, good luck. It doesn't have to be even. Just as long as there's 10 spots to write things down. All right. Write 10. We're going to do, in one of those pies, I want you to write money and financial success. And one, you're going to write physical space environment. Is it 10? 9. 9 spots. Now I'm probably going to mess you up. Career and purpose. Relationships with others. Yeah, and each piece of the pie. Relationship with self. Inner work. Nutrition. Physical health / stress. Learning, growth, and education. Everybody got all that? Can you read it out here?
Yep. So relationships with others, relationship with self, inner work, nutrition, physical health / stress, learning / growth / education, money / financial success, physical space, and then career purpose.
So the people recording can see it. Oh, son of a gun. Thank you.
Yep.
There you go. So everybody can see it. You see it?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, guys. So in each one of those spots, I want you to go through and I want you to write numbers 1 through 10 in each one of those spots. 10 being high, like you're crushing it. 1 being, like Lily said earlier, I'm dying. And so this is going to give you guys kind of a framework for when you're deciding what habits we kind of want to concentrate on. And as you guys are going through this, be honest with yourselves. Don't just like write a number because you're like, I think this is what people would want, right? How do you actually feel about this? And so my hope for this challenge is by the time you guys get to the end of this and with the patterns and habits we've chosen, that you guys can see an increase in those numbers, whatever your concentration is. Try and pick the low-hanging fruit, right? If relationship with self is like a 2, that might be a good option to do a little work on maybe some positive affirmations in here. If physical health is maybe low, right? What can we do? Maybe it's nutrition-based, maybe it's sleeping. If stress is one, then breath work and meditation, maybe sauna and cold plunge would be a really good option for you guys. Money, financial success, maybe it's building a habit around budgeting as you guys move through each week. Career and purpose, maybe it's a good opportunity for you to journal about what you'd like to do in life. So it just gives us kind of a good framework, and it gives us like tangible numbers to kind of look at as we're moving through this. be honest with yourself, accept that it's okay, right? We're all at different points in life, and these numbers, this is just a good tool to have, right? You guys can come back to this a year from now, 2 years from now, and kind of reevaluate your life because things are going to change, right? Relationships change, life situations change. So it can just be a really good way of like, instead of just reminiscing about it or like beating yourself up about it, we can actually sit down and like get some numbers out. Cool. Like I said, you guys can expect a little bit of resistance. Change is going to be hard. Just allow for that resistance to come up, right? Don't try and like force it down. We're going to talk a little bit about trauma later. We don't want to be pushing things down. And when you guys get into this challenge, what you'll find is that there's going to be an instinct to do something, right? I'm supposed to journal first thing in the morning. You wake up and you go, okay, I'm going to journal, and then your mind will come in and start negotiating with you. Well, we can have our coffee first, or maybe we can go for a nice little walk first, or maybe I can do this later. And typically the more time or the more you push things off, the harder it is to do. That's why I like to try and do my breath work and meditation first thing in the morning, because there's nothing else going on. By the time you get up and start moving, things just kind of like pile up. So prioritize what you guys are trying to work on over this challenge. By taking time each day, remember why you're doing it. Choose wisely, right? Pick things that you're going to want to do, right? There's going to be some resistance to certain things. Don't like really force it, right? And don't try and think your way into a new way of acting. The best thing to do is just act, right? So that's why I meant that first impulse, like get up and journal, act on it, right? Don't like wait. So we're trying to go with a little bit more simplicity this time. Typically these challenges have like 15 or 16 different habits, and it can be a little bit overwhelming for people. So my goal for this one was to kind of like, you know, as time goes on, things get more and more bulky or complex. We're trying to like simplify it a little bit. So we're gonna have a couple challenges. You guys are gonna pick one habit for move well, eat well, and live well, and then you're gonna pick 2 habits for think well. We're gonna have a couple of shared habits, like the move well, attending class, the eat well, clean eating. And then the live well category, we're going to do no social media. So those are going to be the things that we kind of share together in this challenge that we can commiserate on. And then you guys will have a chance to pick and choose what you need to work on, because everybody's different. We're all at different places in life. For some people, maybe breathwork and meditation is something you have as consistent practice, or maybe journaling is. So it doesn't really do you any good to pick that habit because you're already doing it. So for the move well categories, like I said, the primary is going to be attending class 3 to 5 times a week, alternating intensity recovery. You guys should not be coming to class 4 times in a row, right? You should at least give yourself 1 rest day after every 3 days of exercise, right? It could be an active recovery. You can go for a jog, you can go for a walk, do something outside. Yoga class would be a good option as well, but the type of workouts that we do in here are typically very high intensity, and you don't build muscle in here, right? This is a place of destruction. You guys come in here and we tear all your muscle fibers up, and then if you're not giving your space the time to recover, you're kind of just like spinning your wheels. So a couple options you guys have. We can add in hypertrophy work. I recommend like 3 sets of 10. It doesn't like overwhelm your system too much. Hypertrophy is rep ranges where you're building muscle, right? So 10 reps is pretty good. If your goal is to build like strength and getting a little bit of hypertrophy, like 3 sets of 5 would be good. Roughly like 70-75% of what your max would be. All right. We can dedicate 10 to 15 minutes daily to mobility work. We can go for a daily mindful walk. You're going to see the mindful walk comes up in a couple different categories, so you guys can kind of pick and choose. Maybe if the hypertrophy work is a priority for you, you can do the daily walk as part of the think well or live well category. Balance drills are also really good. Handstands, handstand holds, muscle ups, isometric holds are also really good for developing stability overhead. So we can help you guys come up with some stuff for that as well. Performing pulling work also. Some of you guys might be wanting to work on pressing work, which is totally fine. But when you guys are considering the muscles of your body, the front muscles are all superficial muscles. They're a lot smaller muscle groups compared to your back muscles. So if you're trying to build a lot of muscle for the challenge, maybe that's one of your targets, the back muscles are going to be the way to go, right? A lot of the pulling strength, so like bent over rows, pull-ups, ring rows, deadlifts. We are doing deadlifts as part of the cycle, but those would be things to kind of concentrate on. Maybe some single leg deadlifts if you got an imbalance like I do. Then we have the eat well category. So one of the things that we're going to do as a shared group here is clean eating. So what does clean eating mean? no added sugar, no artificial ingredients. If you can get it in nature, it's probably safe, right? Pull it out of a tree, pull it out of the ground, kill it. Those are all things you can eat. Try and avoid anything that has artificial flavors or ingredients added to it. So if you do that, or if you drink alcohol, or you accidentally have a piece of cake at someone's birthday, not accidentally, if you choose to have a piece of cake at someone's birthday party, that's okay. You just don't get points for that day. Does that make sense, everybody? Cool. That one seems to be a real priority. The other categories we can do is prioritize protein macros. That'd be a really good one if you tend to undereat on your protein. Like I said, protein actually comes from the Greek word meaning priority or primary. So it is the most important thing. When you guys get a plate of food, sit down, eat your protein first, right? And then start picking away at your carbs and fat. You can do incorporating 3 servings of seasonal fruit and vegetables. We're going to go over what the seasonal fruit and veggies are. Or maybe you're kind of a chronic undereater, you can choose to hit your calorie goals. That would be another option. Those would be like the priority. Those are like the most important. The category after that, these would be secondary. So maybe you're just already crushing all those goals. You can pick one of the secondary categories. One would be fasting between meals. It's very important for your body to have time where it's not always digesting food. It takes a ton of energy to digest food. So if you're snacking all day long, your body's never really able to get to that recovery process. So you want to give yourself about 3 to 4 hours of window between meals, just so your body can kind of process all that. Maybe it's follow meal timing. If you're not good about getting protein post-exercise, there's a protein synthesis window that's about 30 minutes to an hour after you exercise. That should be your biggest meal and one of your biggest targets if you guys are exercising. And I don't care if some of you guys choose to follow all these things, but you're going to pick one for your habits. Does that make sense? You can play around with intermittent fasting. That's also a really good option if maybe you tend to overeat. Intermittent fasting is like a 16-hour resting window. So from 8 o'clock the night before until 12 the next day would be 16 hours. I would do that intermittently. Don't do that every day. There tends to be kind of a stress response if you're kind of chronically doing that. And a lot of times for someone like me I have a hard time hitting all my calories every day. It can be too much of a caloric deficit. I've had that experience. The Yuka app, if you guys do not have this, it's really important, especially you guys who tend to put stuff all over your body, lotion, makeup, sunscreen, any of those things. Scan your toothpaste, scan your shampoo. Your skin is like a second mouth. So anything that you're putting on your skin is going to go directly into your bloodstream. So it is quite amazing how much garbage is in grocery stores. I went into the toothpaste aisle the other day to try and get toothpaste. There were 2 toothpastes that were above 90% on the Yuka app. 2. All the Crest, all the Sensodyne, all those other things scored 40 out of 100 in terms of clean ingredients. Even the Crest Kids, which I find to be super messed up. So go through your house, cleaning products, check all that stuff, because anything that is touching your skin, or that if you're squirting it on a stove or something, all those little particulates you're breathing in, it's quite amazing how much garbage is in there. So if you guys don't have that app, it can be very eye-opening. And I take it to the grocery store, so scan things before I buy them. All the food products and things like that, you can scan those as well. You can see Cheerios here at 8 out of 100, so not good for you. But there's a B on it, and it's for children. Sugar intake, right? We're not, if you're doing flawless clean eating, it's just important you guys understand that sugar is a neurotoxin. It spikes your dopamine, which is addictive in some ways. It'll impair your memory and focus. Chronic intake increases inflammation, raising the risk of Alzheimer's, what they're now considering type 3 diabetes. So just be very mindful about how much sugar you're taking into your body. If you have a sweet tooth, I encourage you guys to find natural sugars, right? Blueberries, fruits, things like that, because the ones that come in nature also have a lot of fiber, and it slows the absorption into your body. It's just not like a heroin injection of a Skittle into your body. The other thing that I find to be super interesting is they did some research now that when you eat sugar, it actually sugar is both water and fat soluble. So it goes into every tissue in your body, right? When you consume sugar, they're actually showing now that it gets into your bone marrow, which is where a lot of your immune system regulates you. All your white blood cells are created there, and it'll suppress your immune system for 3 to 4 hours. So Yeah, tough. So it makes a lot more sense now when you look in that context of young children that go to school and you're like, well, kids just haven't been exposed to germs yet, but kids are also getting lollipops and candy and sugar, and they're also exposed to a lot of germs at the same time. But you can imagine if it's suppressing my immune system for 3 or 4 hours, that a 50-pound child is consuming Capri Suns, Coca-Cola, like they're just wrecking their immune system. So important that you guys understand that. This is a little graph which shows your neutrophils, which are like your immune system's first responders. They rush to infections, attack microbes, and release chemical signals. You can see time after consumption of sugar, they're at 100%. At 0 point, they drop down to 50 for the next 2 hours, and then slowly rise back up over 5 hours. So if you're eating sugar at every meal, that's what's happening. Your immune system is just suppressed through the whole day, and if you're doing that every day, that's problematic. And Lily, what happens to people who have diabetes with their wounds on their legs?
They don't heal.
They
at
don't
all.
heal. Exactly, right? So you can think about your blood as you're consuming a lot of sugar, actually gets thick like syrup, right? And that's why your feet tend to fall off first, because as the blood vessels go down, they get smaller and smaller. So if you got syrupy blood, guess what? It's not going to get to your toes. So you're getting poor circulation, all the little
Purpose in their eyes.
yeah,
too.
your
Can't
eyes,
see.
exactly. Very small, like blood vessels in your eyes. So a lot of times people with diabetes go blind. That's why. Makes a lot more sense. And it's way more alarming to think about syrup going through your system. Seed oils are another one, and the sugar and seed oil things are pretty common in terms of like just mast system inflammation. Unfortunately, or fortunately now, there's some apps now that will actually tell you what restaurants are using seed oils and which are not. And that is also surprising. I think Chipotle got busted for this, using a lot of seed oil, which is so sad. But you guys can, I'll see if I can find that app and send it to you guys. But a lot of the local restaurants use seed oils, so you just gotta be careful when you guys go out to eat. The best thing you can do for yourself is cook at home, because you know exactly what's going into that food, and also it's expensive to eat out now. So I'd encourage you guys to eat in and create, or make as much of your own food as you can. Yeah, I think it just causes tons of inflammation throughout your body, and I think seed oils tend to coagulate your brain as well. So could be one of the reasons that people get Alzheimer's at younger ages. Alcohol is another one you want to try and stay away from. Also, processed sugar. Alcohol is toxic to the body. There's really no safe amount of alcohol to consume, unfortunately. So that's something to really focus on. It disrupts your REM sleep as well. I always tell people that when you drink, right, it helps you fall asleep, right? But being unconscious isn't the same thing as sleeping. And the other thing is, and this actually is with food as well. When you consume alcohol, it takes roughly an hour for that to get out of your system. So if you're consuming 2 or 3 drinks at night at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, while your body is consuming or processing that alcohol, you're not actually sleeping. While the body is consuming food, the same thing's happening also. So if you're eating a bunch of food before you go to sleep, you might be unconscious, but your body is still operating as it is active, right? So if you're eating a giant meal at 10 o'clock at night, well, it's going to take like 3-4 hours for your body to consume that food, right? And then you get to start the repair cycle. So a lot of ideas, I listened to a doctor the other day that was talking about this. We have this concept that sleep in itself is restorative, but maybe it's not actually the sleep that's restorative. It's maybe actually the fasting aspect. The fact that your body is not processing food. So I'd encourage you guys to try and eat your meals like 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep, and you'll notice that your rest and recovery is a lot better if you do that. Yeah, alcohol is also catabolic, so if you guys, your goal is to increase muscle mass and strength, if you're consuming a lot of alcohol, it actually blunts that response. So make sure you guys, and if you ever see people who are alcoholics, they're typically like super skinny and like wiry, and they can like barely move. It dehydrates all your tissues and organs. Yeah, vertebrae, all those things get like shrunk up. It's not good. It's not good. Creatine, we did this for one of the last challenges. It's super cheap, actually. I think this is like $25 for a month's worth. Creatine is something that's naturally produced. So you get it in like beef, chicken, and it's a really good supplement for your brain as well. So 5 grams is considered enough for building strength and muscle. And what creatine really does is it increases your ATP. Your ATP is responsible for the amount of force you can put into each lift. So the idea is by taking this, when you come in to do your bench press, you're actually increasing the amount of force you can put into the lift, which is increasing the amount of damage you're doing to the muscles, and then creatine allows for it to build back up bigger and stronger, right? 5 grams is considered like a maintenance dose if your goal is just muscular, but they're now finding research that 10 to 15 grams is actually really good for brain health as well, especially if you're a vegetarian, if you have a hard time eating a lot of protein. It can be a really good way of like counterbalancing the fact that you're not getting a ton of protein from eating just vegetables. One of the other really interesting things is if you guys have like swing shifts, I know Lily's a nurse, or if you have a night where you get really poor sleep, if you take a large dose of creatine the next day, like 20 to 30 grams of creatine the next day, it can actually offset the amount of damage you did from not sleeping. So if you guys have like a big conference or a big meeting or something, and you got poor sleep the night before, wake up, have like 2 or 3 scoops, 4 scoops. You can even separate them out by a little bit, just so your body has time to process it all. And I just saw something the other day that if you mix it with juice, it can also be really helpful in terms of like absorption.
Could you mix it with a protein shake, or whey protein? Or?
Yeah. It doesn't taste very good on its own, so I would not just drink it in water. There was also a suggestion to drink it in like room temperature water also to help with absorption. But typically, what I'll do is I'll mix it with one of the salt packets. And Mary and I were just talking about this before. You'll notice a change in your mental capacity as well. A little bit more crisp, a little bit more clear. It really helps with brain function. There's suggestions to kind of split those throughout the day. So 10 grams a day split into 2 doses, maybe one in the morning and one post-workout or the afternoon. Like I said, 5 grams is efficient for muscle saturation, but it undershoots that brain, bone, and immune benefits. 10 grams plus would be better for that. And I kind of like treat it a little bit more like based on body weight. So Troy and I are probably going to consume more than like Casey is. So you guys can play around with your dosing. Sometimes it can upset people's stomachs, so just notice if it does, and then you can kind of like cater it to what you need.
Well, could you take the 10 grams in the morning? I don't really have time to split it. 10 grams.
You don't have time.
I do.
Yeah, I usually take it in the morning.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't think it's a problem.
All right.
You may notice, so one of the things about creatine is that it'll increase your water absorption. So don't panic if you get on the scale and you put on 5 pounds if you start using it. It's just water weight. One of the things that's important also is, one of the things I've learned over this time that I've been working with health is the more people study human health, the more they realize that we just need to be out in nature. That all like the natural processes, the things we evolved to do, are actually really good for us, right? So getting a lot of sunlight, super important for overall health, getting your vitamin D. Eating things that are seasonal as well is also really important. So eating the local veggies that are seasonal kind of keeps you in balance. Like one of the things is like oranges start to come out in the fall, and that typically comes as people start to get sick from being inside too much. And oranges have a ton of vitamin C, so it's like this nature's like natural counterbalance to the seasons, which I think is like super cool. So try and eat those because you don't even understand how many benefits they're going to come from just eating the seasonal veggies. These are what's seasonal for this time of year around here. So figs, muscadine grapes, apples, pears, persimmons, lake peaches. Vegetables would be okra, bell peppers, eggplants, sweet potatoes, collard greens, and pumpkins. You guys are all athletes in here. Sweet potatoes are amazing for carbohydrate intake. A really good amount of fiber as well. So, and a sweet potato baked in the oven with butter is so good. So try and find some recipes that will allow you to kind of eat those seasonal vegetables. I think okra is disgusting, so find ones that work for you. The Think Well category, we got priority. These are the things that I found really move the needle as far as like overall well-being. Practicing 10 minutes of breath work daily, like a 4-7-8 breath or box breathing. There's a suggestion of an app on the next screen, I think, that is free called, I think it's called Breathwork or Breathe maybe. And I was playing around with that. You can set the different time durations as well. Meditation, you guys can play around with like guided meditations. If you're kind of new to the meditation game, that can be very helpful. There's a bunch of apps out there, Calm, Waking Up with Sam Harris, Headspace. It's a really good opportunity for you to like calm your mind down. Aiming for 7.5 hours of sleep nightly. Some of you guys may crush this every night. Super important. If you're not getting at least 7.5 hours of sleep every night, you are really like doing a lot of damage. So and you're increasing your risk of Alzheimer's dramatically. Daily sauna or cold plunge, you can choose either or choose both if you want. If you guys are going to do the cold plunge, just make sure you're not doing it after strength work, right? You'll blunt your immune response. Sauna can be done at any time. Typically, you don't necessarily want to do it before like a 20-minute AMRAP because you just sweat all your minerals out and be dehydrated when you get to it. So I encourage you guys to, if you're going to do the sauna, do it post-exercise or in the evenings. If you do a sauna in the late afternoon before you go to bed, it'll give you the best night's sleep of all time. Secondary would be walking outside, like I mentioned. That's going to come up a couple times. Limit digital input. One of the things that's really interesting about blue light, which is what our phones emit, a lot of the phones now have some kind of like red filter in there as well. But when we're out in nature, we're really only getting blue light when the sun is at its highest point, right? When the sun's at its highest point, it's getting the least amount of atmosphere as it comes down. That's why the sky looks blue, because you're getting the most amount of blue light at that time. So you're basically, when you're sitting in bed and you're looking at your phone, you're signaling to your body that it's the middle of the day, right? So it throws off your whole hormonal rhythm. Same thing for first thing in the morning. By getting up first thing in the morning and going out into the day, it regulates all those hormones, and it'll actually allow you to sleep better in the evenings if you're getting a big dose of morning sunlight. Same thing in the evening. If you want to get tired, go out and watch the sunset. You'll be exhausted by the time the sun goes down and it's dark outside. Same thing with TV. I'm surprised that almost zero TVs that I've experienced have any kind of blue light filter. So, and you can play around with this tonight, this weekend when you go home. You can turn all your lights off, get it real dark, hang out for like 10, 15 minutes, and then turn your television on. And just feel what your brain does. I'll make your whole brain come alive. So we don't really want to do that before we go to bed. Journaling in the evening can be a really good way of like releasing negative thoughts and anything that's kind of like on your mind. So some of you guys who get in bed, I know girls have a hard time with this, you get in bed and your mind's like, so if you get down and do a stream of consciousness journaling and just write it all down, allow your brain to like process it so that you can kind of fall asleep. Sleep hygiene is also super important. Coming up with a routine. Your body really works well off patterns. So if you guys have a routine of like brushing your teeth, doing some journaling, reading a book, if you kind of stay in that pattern, it'll trigger that sleep response really easily. Try and make sure that your bed is just for sleeping. If you guys wake up and do a lot of work in your bed, that's not a good idea. TV, no TV. We talked about the large meals. Limiting bright light. If you guys, last challenge we did a candlelight evening where as the night came, we turned all the lights off in the house and you just operated by candlelight. And all the people said that was huge in terms of like the ability to fall asleep. Caffeine, THC, nicotine before bedtime's a no-no. All those things are stimulants. And if you're someone who tends to pee a lot at night, a lot of times that's a stress response also, or you're consuming a ton of water. But what I found when I started doing evening meditations is my need to get up and pee in the middle of the night, like basically totally dissipated. So if you're peeing 4 times a night, try and do like a little wind down or meditation before bed. It makes a huge difference. Breath work. This is something I cannot emphasize enough for you guys as athletes. Doing daily breath work is one of the best ways, I think, to reduce stress. And not only that, you can think about all your like sinus cavities. They say if you take a fist and you put it in front of your head, that's the amount of space that your sinus cavities take up. And people who are like chronic mouth breathers, when they don't use it, all those sinus cavities like shrink up. So you tend to get sick because there's allergens and like if you get viruses and stuff, and that mucus fills up those small cavity pathways, right? You can't breathe. But by doing like daily breath work, you actually open all these things up, and you actually, this sounds weird, but you'll find more space in your head. As those pathways move up or open up, it makes it a lot easier to breathe, and you'll find that you get sick a lot less, and you'll find, like I've found by doing daily breath work, I don't get allergies anymore, which is also bizarre. Every time in like the spring, fall, when all the pollen comes out, I'd just be a total mess. Eyes be watering, sneezing all day long. And for the last like 2 years since I've been doing it, I don't really get allergies anymore. Same thing for cats also. I found that I'm not allergic to cats anymore. So, like I said, it makes a huge difference. But it's one of those things that's hard for people to like grasp until you do. Really helps with managing pain and reducing inflammation. you're all adults here. It'll make your sex life a lot better. It makes you way more sensitive, and you can also do it as a way of modulating your arousal during sex. So if you're someone who tends to get really aroused and maybe it takes you 2 minutes to have sex, you might be able to increase that time by taking some long, slow, deep breaths, and that'll help you modulate your orgasm response. I found that to be super helpful. So you guys can play around with that as well. This is also a really good way to understand how your brain works. So the breath is one of those things that is both a subconscious thing, but we also have conscious control of it, right? So like my heartbeat, right? My heartbeat is just beating, right? There's not much I can do to like really slow my heart rate down. But your breath, if you'll notice in times of high stress, your breath will become like very shallow. If you're around someone who's super stressed, but by learning to bring your awareness to that breath, you can actually modulate how your brain is functioning. So it's a really helpful tool. Like I said, like the mind's like the horse. So if you find that the horse is unruly, wild, and creative, bucking you off at times, you can use the breath as kind of the rider and slow your breathing down, and that'll help the mind slow down. And you can consider like the reins like the attention, right? But you have to bring your attention to it in order to like slow it all down. Another thing I encourage you guys to do is to get in some formal practice of meditation. It turns out all the religions were right in this aspect. This is incredibly helpful not only for like spiritual development, but for also like learning to build a relationship between you and your thoughts. It gives you space. If you guys have ever been like super stressed, you felt like you're going to lose your job, you're going through a super difficult like relationship breakup, it feels like it's on you, right? If you're in traffic and someone cuts you off, immediately you'll feel your like body tense up, and there's like no space between you and whatever that stressful event is. By practicing meditation, you're intentionally creating space, and so you're allowing for an increased time between stimulus and response, right? So now, maybe this is when I notice I'm not on my breathwork game, is if I'm in traffic and I get irritated. If I'm meditating twice a day for 20 minutes, that type of irritation just does not happen. So, really important. And another cool way to think about meditation, when we look out into the sky, right, you are looking into infinity, right? There's no end. We kind of take it for granted a lot of times. But meditation is doing the opposite. Close your eyes, you are looking into the infinite space inside. So think about it as like more of like an exploratory thing also. The more you do it, the more space you'll find inside yourself, and the more interesting experiences you can have within yourself. But you'll never get there if you don't try. I wanted to do kind of like a little bit of an exercise in this to give you guys kind of an understanding between how emotions and trauma kind of run through you. So I'm gonna have you guys close your eyes, and we've done this once before in like the life challenges here, but we're gonna do some chaotic breathing. All right. So you're gonna close your eyes, and I want you to breathe at a chaotic pace. So you're gonna like different amounts of space between the breaths. All right. Let's try this out. Ready? All right, pause for a second, see how you feel. Ooh, yeah. Right, like feel that like chaotic breathing, that's like how it affects your body. What does your mind feel like? All right, now I want you to take some double inhale, exhale. So breathe in 70%, pause, breathe in the last 30, and long, slow exhale. resume breathing. Nice slow breaths in. Slow breaths out. And keeping your eyes closed, I'm going to start saying some things, and I want you to notice how your body responds. All right? I want you to think about someone you really love. Bring that person's face into your mind. Think about giving that person a hug. Notice any like emotions that are coming up around that. Feel how that kind of like radiates through your body. I want you to think about going to the beach and seeing a sunset. Looking out into the ocean. Now I want you to think about biting into a lemon. Imagine that citrus taste. Notice how your mouth might start to salivate. See if you can taste the citrus. Now I want you to think about politics. Think about Donald Trump. Think about the state of the world. Think about war and famine. Where does that come up for you? Now I want you to think about your favorite pet. Think about going home and seeing your favorite pet. And then just think about all the love you have in your heart. All your friends and family that you love. Think about how you wish them well if you could see them. Take a couple big breaths here. 2 more. Last one. Yes, and slowly open your eyes. Right? So, the reason I wanted to do that with you guys is just to kind of give you an idea of how like our thoughts drive our emotions, drive our feelings, right? These breathwork meditations are tools to help process those things. Those things I might have mentioned about politics, war, famine. You feel all that like tension in your stomach, right? You might have felt some blood kind of rushing to your arms and legs, right? The fight or flight response. Pain in your heart, right? The thought of like people starving to death, right? Oh, that's so like sad, right? All those like feelings, all those things are tension and trauma like stored in your body. A lot of you experience this in relationships, right? Someone says something that you don't like, right? You feel your gut like wrench up, right? Those are all indicators of trauma that's stored in your body. And unfortunately, our society doesn't have a very good way of allowing for releasing that trauma, right? And breath work and meditation are a means of a daily kind of reconciliation of that, or a daily like processing. So it's a really important practice, I think, to help just. It's kind of like we exercise or we eat properly to kind of maintain our body. This is the same way of like maintaining our emotional states. Most of you guys know that I'm involved in like psychedelic therapy. Those medicines are the same thing. They're a way of processing trauma. When you get into those journeys, you have experiences and childhood memories of trauma that's stored in you from when you were 5 or 6 years old. And when you're not able to process that, you don't have a good practice of processing that, it all gets stored. So when someone, pokes on that wound, you tend to like lash out, right? And that wasn't their intention to poke on that wound, but you tend to like attack, right? This is a way of like allowing that like processing. So hopefully that was a good experiment. To kind of get you guys an understanding of that. Sauna, like I said, good for post-workout exercising. Really good for, it's a vasodilator, opens up all your organs and everything. Will really dramatically reduce soreness. So if you guys are chronically sore, trying to get in the sauna after you work out, usually the people are training the sauna. It's also a really good way of like getting to know the community, the people that are around you. One of the beauties that I didn't really understand when I got the sauna is that you can't take your phone into the sauna. And one of the things that is hard about owning a community gym like this is that when people are here for like 4 or 5 years, they develop like friend groups and like little cliques sometimes. It can be very hard for someone new coming in to like develop relationships with people because we naturally kind of gravitate towards the people we know, right? And we want to hang out with. But when you go into that sauna, there's nothing else to do. So it's a good opportunity to meet the people that are around you and get to know them. Everybody in here is super nice. So
Can I ask a question about the sauna?
yeah.
Is there a benefit? I know you said not to do the cold plunge right after strength training, but is there a benefit to doing like sauna and cold plunge, like hot and cold?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially on recovery days, that is amazing. So sauna is a vasodilator, it's going to open everything up, and cold plunge is a vasorestrictor, it's going to close everything down. So the way I think about it is when you open everything up, you're allowing for this like blood flow, this repair to happen, and then when you get into the cold plunge, it's like squeezing everything back into your core. So it's like flushing your whole system with hormones, and it's great for like mood regulation. The cold plunge is really interesting. This is kind of fun. If you ever call a suicide hotline, one of the first things they tell you to do is stick your face in ice water. Because a lot of times depression is just a thought process that's just like going in your mind. When you get to that cold plunge, Eric can attest to this, you're not thinking about anything else. You're certainly not thinking about what you got to do later that day. You're right there. You are grounded in that present moment. And usually the present moment's not that bad. Maybe the cold plunge. But it's a good way to like regulate your stress response as well. When you guys do the sauna, if you haven't been doing it regularly, you want to stay in there just past discomfort, right? And you're kind of like, what you're doing essentially, kind of like we do in here, is you're teaching your body that it's okay to get slightly stressed out and to be in that okay state, and then you get some relief. But yes, really good. Yeah, if you guys have joint pain, anything like that, super helpful. If you want to try and come do it in the afternoons, that's the best time to do it. When the body goes from hot to cold, that triggers your sleep response. That's why taking a warm shower in the evenings is a really good way to go to sleep as well. So if you don't want to come use the sauna, a hot bath is also a really good way to trigger that sleep response. Nice, so good. All right. For cold exposure, really good anti-inflammatory effects also. That's why it's not a good idea to do it post-exercise. You want that inflamed response, right? You do heavy squats, heavy deadlifts. You want your body to respond to that stimulus, essentially. So if you get in the cold plunge right afterwards, you blunt that immune response, and you'll actually like stop all your muscle gains. So don't do that. You can wait up to 6 hours afterwards. So if you want to come later in the evening and do a cold plunge post-exercise, that's good. If you're gonna do it before class, just give yourself enough time to warm back up a little bit. We warm you up as part of class, but you definitely don't want to go for like a 200-meter run post-cold plunge. Your feet are gonna hurt. Really good for metabolic health. We're about to enter the winter time, and one of the things that's kind of cool about cold plunge is it actually brings in brown fat tissue. Your body will develop more brown fat, which makes you more cold tolerant. So if you're someone who's typically cold all the time, this is a really good way to be more tolerant to the cold. I mentioned the sunlight as well. One of the things that's kind of pretty interesting about sunlight, when we were at indoor light, the max these lights get, I think, is like 300 to 800 lux, which is like the amount of light they output. When you guys go outside, even if it's a rainy day or it's cloudy outside, you're getting 10,000 lux. That's how they measure light. So you're going to get way better light by going outside. So one of the things I want you guys to work on this challenge is to spend as much time as you can outside. Also, it's really good for stress. If you spend a lot of time in your house, inevitably there's things in your house that you feel like you need to take care of. Right? Oh, I just got this project. My room's not clean. There's dust on the floor. It's like you're surrounded by all these things and responsibilities that you're supposed to take care of. If you go outside, there's none of that, right? You just go outside, enjoy the nature. It's beautiful outside. It's a really good way of unloading stress. Long walks are really good for that as well. As far as the cold plunge duration, I'd say 1 to 3 minutes is pretty good as far as what you should be shooting for. And when you get out of the cold plunge, allow your body to heat up naturally. It's a huge calorie burn. So if your goal is to lose weight, if you get in the cold plunge and get out, just think about how many calories it takes to heat your body back up. We talked about the group task for the live well category, so no social media. Try and limit TV as well if you can. I didn't put TV in this one just because I know it's football season. And I don't want to fight that battle. I don't care for football, so it's not a big deal for me. But the other thing with social media is you just have no control over it, right? In most of our day-to-day life, with the exception of things popping up, we have a decent amount of control over what we take in, right? You can choose what books you want to read. You're not gonna be able to choose your interactions with people, but if you're a pleasant person, most of your interactions are fairly pleasant. But even what just happened last week, Charlie Kirk, I got on Instagram and I see this guy getting murdered on my phone. That's brutal, right? And that just sent me into a spiral, crying the next morning. There's just so much. You have no control over what's coming in and what's coming out. And some of this stuff's beautiful, which is I think with the crack addict type thing about it. You see something that's very inspirational and amazing, and then you see this other thing that's just horrible, and you see people get robbed at gunpoint or some guy getting shot on his motorcycle, and it's just you just don't have any control over what's coming in. So it's a way of maintaining our peace, and I think everybody can probably deal with 30 days of maintaining our peace. What I'd really encourage you guys to do during this time, because I'm as guilty as anybody of this thing. I feel like I should have total control over it. But I wanted you guys to notice how often you reach for your phone over the next few days. We're starting this on Monday. So tell me, pay attention to how many times you reach for your phone or open it up and just look at it. And Casey told me she tried to delete Instagram 2 weeks ago. she's like, I'm looking at Facebook Marketplace and
I started
just looking at your email constantly. So I want you guys to not just put the digital well-being on, but I want you to delete it off your phone. That way it's not easy to get to. Right? I don't know if you can block it in your web browser, but I have a feel like a few people are going to open their web browser just to try and get in there.
It's tough. It's so hard to navigate, but this is a quick fix.
It's going to be brutal. I think it's going to be brutal. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm excited as well. Personal topics, we're going to talk about that next. We're almost done, I promise. But suggestions on, so personal tapas is a habit that you have incorporated. How's this light treating everybody?
Yeah, it's gonna.
Yeah, I think this really
Yeah, it's way better than video too.
It's so much better.
We're almost done.
Yeah, thanks. That was written.
Practicing daily gratitude, that can be part of your journaling. Write things you're grateful for. It's good to do it in the morning and the evening. Wake up, write three things you're grateful for. Like I said about your mind, right? If you're focusing on what you're grateful for, typically your mind will kind of create around that thing. Grounding, getting out and putting your feet on the earth, really good for inflammation as well. And it just connects you back to the earth. We're not meant to walk around in rubber shoes all day. There's actually a tremendous amount of health benefits to getting that ionization from the floor. Setting boundaries, winding down before bed, right? Putting your phone away, putting it in a different room. would be a good option as well. And then creative work. We are creators by design. Everything that you see in this room came into someone's thought process first before they created it. We're naturally creative beings, whether it's playing music, drawing. So examine your life. Are you creating anything? Right? It can be dance also, right? Like that's an act of creation. But I would encourage you guys to think about what you enjoyed doing as a child. Maybe it was writing or playing music, something like that, and then kind of try and get back into that habit. Where we're not just constantly consuming things all the time, but what is like coming out of you. Can be very helpful. Yeah, we talked about social media. Tapas. This is a Sanskrit term that means tap, meaning to burn or heat. It refers to like a spiritual heat transformation. So one of the things I want you guys to do is look at habits that are right. Maybe you like got into a habit of eating a couple cookies at night, and maybe that served you for a particular amount of time. And now when you eat the cookies, there's just like guilt that kind of comes involved with it. That would be an example of a habit that is right for picking. Something that is maybe served you at one point, but is no longer serving you. Glass of wine at night, dessert, scrolling on your phone. What is something that is like now energy depleting, where you do it and then for the next like 30 minutes after you do it, you're like, God, I'm such a bad person, I shouldn't have done that. That would be an example of a tapas to try and get rid of. So you guys are each going to do one more little exercise here. You guys have a sheet of paper again. You can use the other side if you want. This is the last thing. And I want you guys to draw a triangle on that sheet of paper. And you're going to make 4 layers to that triangle. And this represents your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind makes up roughly 5% of your thought processes. Your subconscious, how you're wired, programmed by culture, by your parents, represents the other 95%. All right. So what we're doing in this exercise is we're taking a pattern that you're consciously aware of, and we're going to kind of dive into these subconscious aspects of things. So at the top here, I want you guys to write a pattern or a habit that you have that is something that is no longer serving you. Top one. Found it.
Did something happen to bring in with a little fish purse zip line? Yeah, okay.
What was there a business you were looking for, or just?
No, I dropped, and I had all my keys.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Don't hold that.
Sorry. So, writing a pattern or a habit or something that you do consistently that you're kind of ready to get rid of. And then underneath that, I want you to write down what happens, how do you think, how do you feel, how do you behave when you execute this pattern. Write all those things down. What are the thoughts I'm having when I execute this pattern? What are the emotions that are coming up? Guilt, sadness, disappointment, frustration, anger, constriction maybe. And then how do you behave? Do you like beat yourself up about it? Do you not talk to your friends? Does it trigger some other kind of habit, pattern? And then this last one's the real kicker. What is the predictable future if you continue to do that for the next 5 years? This was part of my life coaching course, and I really hated that last question. How dare you? How dare you make me play this out? I'm just going to stew about it. And don't worry, I'm not just going to leave you with that. Let me know when you guys are ready. And we've figured it out. So on this next page, we're going to find a little solution here. We can draw a circle. And then I want you to find out, what is it that you want to feel? Sometimes it's like freedom, peace, joy. And then honor, right? Imagine what that feeling would be like if you were experiencing it. What does freedom feel like for you? What does play feel like for you? So we want to honor that feeling that we want to feel. And then I want you to double check with yourself, is this something that I think I should feel? Or is that true for you? Is it something like society's telling me I should feel? Or that my parents would think I should feel? My friends think I should feel? Or something I think my parents think I should do? Or is this actually true? And then what kind of practice would you set up to replace whatever that habit or pattern is? And this is where your tapas comes into play. What's a positive habit you can replace this habit that's no longer serving you with? So maybe I'm not scrolling on my phone anymore, maybe I'm reading a book. Because I want to feel smart. Maybe it's not watching TV at night. I'm going to meditate instead. Because I want to feel peaceful instead of watching a murder mystery at 9 o'clock at night. Cool. Everybody get a good feel for that? That's a cool exercise to use. You don't have to just use it for this pattern, but anything else that's happening in your life that you feel like a kind of a negative connotation with. And it's a good way of like giving it a framework. Last thing I'm going to say is using artificial intelligence can be kind of helpful at this day and age. So tracking your macros is always kind of painful for people, right? You got to buy a food scale, right? We're measuring our chicken breasts and our vegetables and all that stuff. It can be a little bit tedious and kind of obnoxious. Snap Calorie is a new AI app where you can take a picture of your plate of food and it will estimate all of those macros for you. Yeah, right? What a time to be alive.
Like you cook food.
Cook food, go to a restaurant.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I found out about this the other week. I was like, that's cool. Snap Calories, what that one's called. Breathe is the one I played around with last week. And that one you can set different breath works and you can set different time durations for it, and it's very helpful. It's like a guided breath work thing. It'll tell you when to breathe, when to stop, when to hold. That can be super helpful. It's free. These are all free. GoWOD for mobility exercises, also free. A bunch of videos and stuff. So if you got like tight hips and you need to have some different stretches to kind of loosen up your hips or overhead position, it's based off of like CrossFit movement. So I think you can go by like exercise. Also, I'm really bad at overhead squats. What I need to do to loosen those up. And then ChatGPT is super helpful, or Grok, whatever AI program you want to use. But coming up with like custom grocery lists, or even if like by the end of the week you go into your fridge and there's like a bunch of ingredients and you don't know what to do with them, you can plug in what your ingredients are and it might spit out a nice recipe for you as well.
these are all apps, right? I mean, I got ChatGPT app, but Snap Calories an app.
Yeah.
GoWOD's an app.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it could be the end of the world, but we might as well use it for the benefit, you know? Yeah, stay committed for the next 30 days. I'm still working on the spreadsheet. It's been a little bit more of a challenge than I wanted it to. for the point challenges. You get consistency points, right? So we're gonna make everything 1 point this time instead of like different weights, but you do get some consistency for hitting it particular days in a row. So I'm trying to encourage consistency throughout that. I'll send you guys all that information probably tomorrow morning. The challenge starts on Monday, 30 days. We'll do an in-body scan at the end of the 30 days. I'm gonna part you guys up in teams also for the challenge. So a little bit of accountability. Yeah, Troy always gets stuck with a shitty partner, so we'll stick with
Yeah,
somebody
they always
else.
drop out.
Yeah, maybe Aaron, because Aaron is pretty
Okay.
stuck with this guy.
I'm down to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you can't drop out. You can't be.
Oh, well, you know, I win these things all the time.
It is true, Aaron. You guys, Troy has won best transformation the last couple times. So. Any questions, guys? Oh, I'm still working on the shirt design. We're gonna do long sleeve shirts for fall, so I'll send you guys that, and I'll have you guys send me your sizes once I finish it up. Cool. Any questions? Thank you guys for sitting and listening for so long, and hopefully you got some good information and some good habits to think about.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Yeah, let's work out.